Well, I'm still here with my buddy Reed. We're kind of moving around because the sun moves and changed our video.
Yeah.
But we were talking a little bit about Calico Rock, what it was like when you were a kid, and different things, and how things have changed here, industry-wise. Now, let me ask you this: as a young person, for them to work here, like when you was 15, 16 years old, what kind of jobs would they do back then?
Well, of course, a lot. There were several that worked on the railroad.
Mm-hmm.
There had several that they had smaller farms. Then I guess we had a lot of people that
Did some people sharecrop in those days too, as well? A little bit?
probably did.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
I know my father-in-law mentioned that his dad sharecropped part of the time, type things.
There was a we called it the planer.
Yeah.
Planing mill over where the hardwood flooring later on there that the Hayes brothers
Yes.
turned that area into for
I
hardwood
remember
flooring.
I remember some of the days when I was a kid, I could tell what time it was
Yeah.
because they blew the breaks and lunch whistles,
Yeah.
and I knew what time. You could hear that all over town, couldn't you?
When I when I when we bought the drugstore and it started there in 1951, by the way, June the 1st, 1951 is when I had started my own business.
Yes.
Bought from Mr. Richard Armstrong.
And you was how old then?
20.
20 years old.
And
Lord have
right out
mercy.
of college into my own business.
Right.
And I had an elderly pharmacist that worked for me because they wouldn't give me my license because you had to be 21.
You were still too young to do
Still
it?
too young. But they let me work, though.
Right.
I mean, when I say they, I mean
Right.
the state
Yes.
officials.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, nevertheless, I was hustling it then.
Yeah.
So I worked 6 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
Monday through Saturday, opened the store at 6 a.m.
6 a.m.
Now, from 6 to 7, I got customers were mainly those men that were going to the
mill.
mill.
Right.
And or farmers who had livestock problem or something like that. But milk fever.
Yeah.
was
Need a little
the-
cow medicine
Yeah,
back
cow
in those days.
medicine.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had quite a bit of veterinary medicine.
Right.
You kind of have to roll with the, whatever is needed. When we moved later on, the veterinary business kind of had dropped down a lot.
Right.
Then. Go ahead.
But now everybody back then, though, that was out on farms, a lot of them had livestock,
Yeah.
though, then.
Right.
Yeah. And, of course, that kind of
Definitely.
changes with time as well.
When I was
A little
growing
bit.
up, we had cows.
Yeah. So you've
One-
milked a
most
cow or
of the
time
time,
or two?
just a Guernsey
Yeah.
cow, and but she gave a lot of milk,
Yeah.
all that we needed, and then skimmed it there, and the Blue John that we called it, the skim milk.
Yes.
That we fed that to the hogs, and so we
Yeah.
raised our own pork.
So
and,
you've milked a cow or a time or two in your life?
I was never good at the milking part of it. Now, I churned the butter,
Right. Right.
and my mother sold. She had a few customers that she had a little business.
I don't know how your
made
cow
a few
was.
dollars.
I don't know how your cow was, but we had one when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And my dad, he taught me how to milk her some.
Yeah.
But that cow never did like me. When I would come, she'd switch her tail at me or stomp her foot or something.
Right.
She didn't bother Dad at all, but she didn't like me milking her
Well, I
at
was
all.
fortunate enough to have my granddad that lived with us.
Yeah.
My mother's father. He
Yeah.
lived till I was 14.
Uh-huh.
So he did the milking.
And that didn't bother you none.
Not a
did it?
bit. No. So we milked, morning and also at night.
But now, didn't a lot of people have milk cows back then?
I think so. Yeah.
A lot of people
sure did.
kept
yeah.
their own milk. raised a lot of their own food
Yeah.
and things like that.
We had a refrigerator, of course. We had electricity,
Yeah,
and we had but a well that we for water
right.
and
Right.
and outdoor plumbing.
Yeah, yeah. Now we mentioned about growing up as a young person. Now you went to school here in Calico Rock, is that right? For part of your school years, is that right?
Had first grade and through the high school. I graduated from high
So
school.
you went basically all the way through school in
Yeah, I
Calico Rock.
skipped 2 grades in there.
Yes. Now I was going to ask about when you
I think
were.
I told you about that before.
When you were in school, did they have ball teams that played ball? and
Well,
stuff like
we
that?
had in high school
Right.
we had basketball teams, but
Right.
we didn't have a coach.
You didn't have a coach.
No.
Okay.
The superintendent was our coach.
Now, did you have a gymnasium to play in
A
those days?
gymnasium.
Yeah.
The gym that we played in burned.
Yes, I remember
And
hearing
I
about
drove
that.
the fire truck up there. Actually, when the whistle went off and I stepped out, I could see the flames going through the ceiling.
Yeah,
But they
yeah.
rebuilt it
Yeah.
on that place
Yeah.
now, and it's used by the elementary now.
Yes, but now they built that back. Was that in the 50s when they built that gymnasium? Somewhere
yeah,
in there.
that's when it was.
Some of the, and then
Yeah.
of course now we have a new gymnasium.
I
Another
think the
one.
cause of it was the janitor it was in the winter,
Right.
and they had built the big fires, and probably it could have been a flue fire, so
Oh, yeah.
whatever else. But they had 2 stoves, one on each side, and they were big stove, but wood stoves.
See, now I'm young enough, young enough to remember when Oxford still had that,
Yes,
and their gymnasium burnt, and from the same thing too.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager, you probably
Really?
remember your son. Your son played in the gymnasium 1 year, and I got to play 2 years, and I
Yes.
played 1 year in that old gymnasium.
one memorable time that our team went to Mount Pleasant,
Yes.
and we played in their gymnasium.
Yep. And they
And
used
it
to have them
snowed,
too. Yeah.
and the snow came through the cracks in the dressing room, and the wind in there, so it didn't take long to get dressed,
Yep.
or whatever.
Well, I can tell you, the old
it was cold.
the old Mount Pleasant gym. When I played ball, they still didn't have heat in there. It was bad enough in one of the schools we went to back then that Gatorade had just come out. You know, that was a new
Yes.
thing. And some of the guys would take a deal of Gatorade with them to drink after the game. And we went to one of the gymnasiums. I can't remember if it was Mount Pleasant, Mammoth Spring, or Oxford, but his jug of Gatorade froze and busted in his satchel
We
in
played-
the dressing room.
We played in a tournament at Hardy once, and the Hardy coach was Preacher Rowe.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, my dad knew.
You remember
Preacher Rowe.
the
Yep.
the pitch for Brooklyn Brooklyn
absolutely.
Dodgers?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Later on,
his dad delivered my brother.
no kidding, yeah,
Yes.
Dr. Rowe.
Yeah, he delivered Doyle, my oldest brother.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So you remember a lot of those characters from those days.
Well, that's the only one. He was kind of hot headed, and he got his jaw broke once.
Really?
Yes, the referee, he kept after him like that, and he got tired of it, and actually broke. Yeah,
The referee-
made a little bit of news.
Yeah.
He probably deserved it.
yeah, you probably don't hear much about a
No.
referee breaking a player.
He used the only thing I had really against him is some of the language that he used, which I didn't think was
Yeah.
too good to use for the high school boys.
Yeah, but you did get to experience some of that in high school and
Yes.
things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
but I think we may possibly have won one game.
yeah,
I think we went to Big Flat
yeah.
once and played over there, and I believe that's the only game that I
think I
recall
remember that.
we won
I think I
in my
remember that.
basketball career.
I remember that gymnasium too. It wasn't wide enough, so they had to make
I've seen that.
restraining
Yes,
lines.
You're
and
right.
stuff. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. Back in those days. Well, Reed, I'm going to ask you another question, and we're going to do another segment in just in a few minutes.
Okay.
But ask you a little question about school curriculum then versus what we have now. How do you think that I always thought it was funny there was the three R's,
Yeah,
reading, writing, arithmetic, but only one of them's got an R in it.
yeah, that's right.
But that was primarily main, and they taught history and what else type things that they taught back then. That was primarily in school.
Well, you had to have so many credits, and
Right.
you were required, I guess, a state requirement.
Right.
You had to take Arkansas history
Right.
and also United States history.
Right.
Now there was a world history, but I don't think that I don't know where it was taught
Right.
or not.
Yeah.
But that's what they called it then.
Right.
And but
English.
you were required to take a certain amount of history and English
Right.
and some math. They
Right.
only offered algebra when I was now. This is when I was high school. Algebra, just the first kind of primary algebra.
Beginning
actually.
algebra.
Beginning, right?
Beginning algebra.
And they also taught geometry.
Yes. Yeah.
My math teacher was Mrs. Van Winkle.
Miss Van Winkle.
Miss Van Winkle was Dr. Kopp's sister.
Oh, really?
That's just a little trivia.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm close out with this
Yeah.
segment on this question here, and plus also now, 'cause I know you went to the same church for many years, but I know there's more churches now than there was. How many churches was there in town back then?
Four that I recall, and that was the Presbyterian, the Methodist, the Baptist, and the Church of Christ.
Four
The
main
four,
churches.
the four churches.
Four churches.
And
yeah, and the Methodist was down here on the
Methodist
corner.
on the corner. The Baptist was up on the hill, sort of over here from where up from the where the Highway 56, Highway 5
yes.
intersection.
Yes.
I think that's I think that's First Street.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the top of that up there, there was a
church up there.
that was the Baptist. That's the Baptist church.
Okay.
The Mennonite church in later years bought that
Yes.
and had church there. And there's a small cemetery right beside it there.
Okay. And
that-
the Church of Christ has pretty much been where
Where
they're
it
at
is now.
right now on the Glade.
Yeah.
Over there. So that was mainly
Yeah.
four churches back in those
Yeah.
days. That they
The
had.
Presbyterian church was over just kind of really close to it, across
Yes.
two-story building. And,
Yes. Yeah. And the post office then was uptown for a long time, and then it moved up there on top of the kind of a little knoll down where the food room is now. Correct?
That's right.
Yeah. And I remember seeing something on there, if I remember right. I think it was like Jim Clinkenbeard and was it
And
J.D. Dreyer?
his partner,
maybe? Yeah.
Mr. Dreyer,
Yes.
J.D. Dreyer.
I remember
from
seeing something on the
Mountain
building.
Home. He and Jim were partners on that. Yes.
Yes. And that was where the post office, and it was there for a long time.
Quite a little while.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
actually, it was there till it moved to its present location.
Yes. Yeah. I remember it being there when I was
Yeah.
a kid.
Well,
So-
all I ever remember is when it was down on Main Street there. But that building originally was a bank.
Oh, where the
Where the post office was there.
Oh,
It's
okay.
been a lot of things.
Oh, okay.
It's
See, I
been
didn't
a
know that.
pizza. It's been a pizza place.
Really?
Yes, at one short period of time, it was a pizza. It's a
See,
place.
I don't even remember that.
And
yeah.
and it's been other things.
Yeah. Yeah. The food room.
Food,
the,
yeah.
Like I said, I can.
But when I
anyway,
was there, it was a post office.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
And Sanford Wayland. Well, there was a Mr. Estes, Earl Estes,
Mm-hmm.
was the postmaster when I was a boy,
Right.
and it was located there. And then by the time that I had the drugstore there, Sanford Wayland, who grew up in the Dolph area,
Right.
was the postmaster. and we ordered our coal. You know, there's a coal house. They call
Yes.
it the coal. It's
Yeah.
been changed
Yeah.
behind. Well, there actually was. Now that building belonged to the postal department,
Right.
and he had his coal there. And then I ordered mine I had a coal stove in the drugstore,
Right.
and Fred Stowers,
Yes.
who had a truck,
Right.
hauled the coal from over in western Arkansas.
Wow.
You know, there's a town over there called Coal Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's named appropriately.
Yeah.
That's but in that area over there was coal.
Yeah. Most people didn't realize that
Yeah.
they used to do
But anyway,
coal mining in
he
Arkansas.
would bring our coal over, and mine was just in a pile out behind the store,
Yeah.
and but his was in the coal house.
So you
but
had
we
to-
ordered it at the same time, you know, and Fred
Yeah.
would bring our coal.
And you had
yeah.
to fire them coal stoves there in the wintertime. You had to pretty much fire them multiple times a day, didn't you?
Well, coal burns slower than wood,
Yeah.
and but we had to add to it, and you know, and sort of depending on the weather too.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah. Times changed a little bit.
times change, and when White River Oil Company came into town,
Right.
well, they put me in a hanging. They had propane.
Yes.
When propane became available, well, and I also had in the store, I had the first air conditioners,
Oh wow.
and these were window type air conditioners that I had installed over the front door.
Yeah. And they weighed a ton back
They
then.
were big, and but anyway, it pretty well kind of cooled down the store.
All right, Reed, I'm going to close out this segment, and then we're going to let you share a little bit. Okay?